Right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to edX Expo 2026. This is the Sri Lanka's largest higher education exhibition and career platform. So with that note, we are going to start with our second panel discussion for the day. We have three distinguished guests today, and we are going to start with the topic from digital innovation to entrepreneurship, Gen AI solutions for everyday challenges. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the most exciting topics of edX. Think about it. Earlier, if you want to start a business, actually we really need a big team, a huge capital, and a lot of time, right? But today, with Gen AI tools, one person can do the work of 5 people. So without taking much time, let's start the valuable discussion with our three distinguished guests. We have Mr. Dhanika Perera, Sri Lankan tech entrepreneur and digital innovator, founder and CEO of Bhasha, and the visionary behind Helakuru, PayHere, HelaPay, and HelaGo. We warmly welcome you, Mr. Dhanika Perera. Along with that, we have Mr. Tushera Kaudavatta, Managing Director of Cisco Labs. Cisco Labs Sri Lanka is the technology and innovation center of Cisco Corporation, the world's largest food service company. Mr. Tushera Kaudavatta, we warmly welcome to the panel discussion. And we have our third guest, Mr. Dehan Vithana. Dehan Vithana is the Lead Data Evangelist at MAS Intimates. He contributes driving data-driven decision-making across the organization. So, ladies and gentlemen, without taking much time, let's start with our second panel discussion for the day. Right. So, let me go through the introduction part for the panel discussion, which is the big picture. I would like to start with Mr. Tushera. Mr. Tushera, so let's set the context for the audience actually. So Cisco is not just a food company, right? It's an, if I'm not wrong, it's an $82 billion powerhouse generating more revenue than global giants. So when you're operating at that massive scale, you are not just competing and you are defending the undisputed number one position. So how Cisco Labs using Gen AI and digital innovation to maintain that dominance? So we would like to start with that. So over to you, Mr. Tushera.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining today. Before that, I put, now we have two words we are talking about. One is innovation and one is entrepreneurship. People have a little bit of a confusion around what is innovation and what is entrepreneurship. Innovation is you are putting money into idea, and the entrepreneurship is you are converting idea into money. Dhanika will talk about that a little later. So he's taking some of the ideas into turning into the money, right? And then giants like Cisco, having over 75,000 people, having over multiple different geographies operating, and most importantly, the number one position in the world, how you keep that, right? So that's where the entrepreneurship comes in. So that's the best of both worlds. You have the money converted into the ideas, and then ideas converting into the money, right? And when you do that, we need to look at, for Gen AI is not just a tool that we are looking at that as a velocity. Velocities comes where actually how we can get this for not just for the mundane work, but actually completely differentiating ourselves, use of the technology, and then use the scale. I'll give you one example. Our fleets on the grounds is the third largest in the world. And if you improve or if you waste 1% of the fleets, the transportation, you are talking about millions of dollars a day. Now that's a scale. Now that scale, when you convert or maybe compare it in a Sri Lankan context, you can't understand. I mean, losing a 1 hour in a transportation context, I think you don't lose that much of money. So in that case, how you put that problem into a solution is you look at differently, right? So, but in our case, we have to look at every single minute details, and the opportunity converting that into a business is what that we are looking at. So in that case, GenAI is just not the tool for us, it's a velocity, how we can really amplify the technology to advance further. And then we are exploiting not just the AI, we are actually looking at first principle AI to look at, go to the core data, and then how we can convert that core data into a complete new solutions. So as I told you, is actually our job is as innovators, we look at the solutions, and then as entrepreneurs, then we look at problems, right? So that's what typically entrepreneurs look at the love for problems, as innovators love for solutions, right? So we look at both in contrast, and then driving the business forward with that advancement of the AI.
Yeah, I think Mr. Tushara's message is clear to everyone. So, Dhanika, you are a pioneer in consumer apps creation. But Dhanika, actually, we see still GenAI seems to be something new to most of the general public, to a certain extent, we guess, right? So, how technology will become an entrepreneurial opportunity to a local-based entities like Bhasha? So, just to start with you, just clarify us.
Okay, so thank you so much, and thanks edX for having me today. Answering your question, now GenAI and innovation and entrepreneurship, right? So what I see as entrepreneurship is all about, solving problems for the betterment of the people, right? And innovation actually plays a major role because innovation is a core of an entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurs think in a different way, sees things not in the general traditional way, but always as, from their perspective, from their expertise. I always see as an entrepreneur, what are the things out there, what are the problems out there that I can solve with my expertise, with my, not individually but our expertise as a team, as a entity, right? So when that comes, it comes down to two basic things. For an entrepreneurship to begin, for an entrepreneurship to born, there should be two things that has to be matched. From internally, we should have a better idea of what we are really good at, right? What we are passionate on, right? What we can do best. And then externally, we need to identify, we need to see the gaps in the market, the problems in the society, the issues within people, right? If you can actually identify that, realize that, and match it with your expertise, that's where an entrepreneurship begins, right? And back in the days, now entrepreneurs come up with ideas, right? Crazy ideas, sometimes we come up with, right? Some work, some not. So one of the main challenges for entrepreneurs was actually how we can validate an idea when it comes to when you got an idea, when you come up with, ignite with an idea, how you can validate it, whether this will work, what are the challenges that will get, whether someone else has tried this, right? Even in the country or worldwide, what are the failure cases, why they have failed. So for those aspects, the GenAI has come up as invaluable source, right? Invaluable resource that now entrepreneurs can actually get an opinion, get a second opinion, or use them as a co-founder to brainstorm your ideas and validate them, right? So our recent example is actually HelaGo, which born on the AI era. All the other products was not actually born on AI era, but we had to validate by sharing our ideas with our closer friends, with the team and getting their feedback, human feedback, right? But when we actually come up with this idea of HelaGo and brainstorm it, we actually got a huge amount of use from AI to validate that area and fine tune it. What are the cases that anyone in the world has tried this kind of a new model, right? And what are the failure cases? What are the practical aspects that we will face when we actually execute this idea? Everything. So I think that's a great opportunity for entrepreneurs to validate their idea before they are executing it. Because most of the ideas, sometimes we fail because of wrong assumptions, right? So that this has become a great source of resource for founders and entrepreneurs, that we can now work with AI as our co-founders when we are actually executing an idea.
Yeah, thank you, Dhanika. Thank you very much. So, turning to Dehan. Dehan, MS Intimates is an entity with a massive manufacturing process, right? So, from a data evangelist perspective, how do you see the contribution of Gen AI to transform a traditional industry?
So if you look at apparel manufacturing, predominantly, historically, it's a very traditional manufacturing system. If you really think from the global context also, China being the biggest, the manufacturer in the world at the moment, even they are also most of the time following the traditional mechanism. And also apparel manufacturing is a labor intensive business most of the time, like with huge human intervention is involved in most of the production. So how we have looked at it, because in our business case, we are a B2B business. In that case, we are contract manufacturers. And what we heavily looking at it, how we can improve the lead time when we are competing with the global market. And in Sri Lankan context, apparel industry is $5 billion business, which we started in 2019. We became $5 billion business in Sri Lanka. And the value addition or the value proposition of Sri Lanka is, apart from the product quality, the lead time, how fast we can deliver our products to our customers. And how we have involved, I'll take one use case. If you look at our fashion designers, they do world-class products, athletes to top-class celebrities, and we design products for them. 3 years ago, how they did was like they take a piece of paper and they do the sketching, and they spend a lot of time on the demographics and research piece. Because when you, before doing any of the product, you have to do a lot of research. What is your target customer segment, and how you can improve the quality, the colors, palettes, everything you have to research. Now that particular lead time which they have to do on research piece has significantly reduced. Most of the GenAI tool has come into play, and they have taken out your research time. At the same time, for the design stage, previously they have to use very complicated tools, and they have to draw everything as a sketch and manually. Now it's actually few prompts, few text words, they just put. If there's a reference image, they upload the reference image and they create their concept within a shorter span. That's only one use case. And how we have looked at as a business is from the starting point and how we can end until the logistic part. And how you can reduce the fabric wastage by looking at all the components and the parameters, how you can reduce the fabric wastage, plus the logistic component within a shorter time, within the lowest cost, how we can deliver our shipments. So those are the areas we have mostly looking at it. At the same time, how we can upskill the knowledge of the general user. Like AI should not be limited only for few people. We have to decentralize all the capability across the organization. And in our organization, we have 100,000 employees across multiple countries. How everyone can onboard into AI space to reduce their individual productivity. So those are the areas we are looking at.
Yeah, Dan, I think thank you very much for this great explanation. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that note, we are moving to the second part of the panel discussion, which is solving everyday challenges. And the goal of this discussion, this segment will be to focus on everyday challenges, which is part of our theme. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a physical audience as well as online audience with us with this panel discussion. So we are going with a mix of Sinhala and English as well to make the audience more engaged. Dhanika, මම කැමති මෙහෙම පොඩ්ඩක් දෙයක් අහන්න. අද ගොඩක් අය හිතන්නේ මේ AI කියන්නේ ලොකු complex problems solve කරන දේවල් වලට විතරයි කියලා, right? හැබැයි මට හිතෙනවා මේ අපේ මේ සාමාන්‍ය ජීවිතයේදීත් විශේෂයෙන් මේ language barriers වගේ දේවල්. මම හිතන්නේ ධනිකට තමයි මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ ගොඩක් හොඳටම උත්තර දෙන්න පුළුවන්. language barrier වගේ දේවල් වලට Gen AI solutions වලින් මේ කොච්චර දුරට සාර්ථක වෙන්න මේ උදව් වෙලා තියෙනවද? පොඩ්ඩක් අපි ඉගෙන කතා කරමු.
ඔව් අතරම හොඳ ප්‍රශ්නයක්. දැන් ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපි AI ගැන කතා කරොත් එහෙම අපි ඒකේ use cases අනන්තයක් තියෙනවා. right? ඕනම දෙයකට. දැන් මම ගත්තොත් personally අද වෙනකොට ඒ කියන්නේ මගේ threads ටික තියෙනවා chat GPT වල හැම area එකකටම අදාළව. ඒතර මම ඒ වයින් ගොඩාක් users ගන්නවා. legal matters, financial matters, professional matters, ඊට පස්සේ social media වල දේවල් ගොඩක් දේවල්. ඒතර අපි මෙතන තේරුම් ගන්න ඕන දේ තමයි අතරම තවදුරටත් ඒ කියන්නේ computing කියන එකේ third era එක තමයි අපි AI එක පටන් අරගෙන තියෙන්නේ මේ. right? In the first era it was just personal computers අර කාමර පිරිච්ච computers වලින් handheld or laptops desktops වලට ආපු era එක. ඊට පස්සේ second era එක mobile වලට ආපු එක. සාක්කුවට අපේ computing power එක ආපු එක සහ cloud. right? Now the third one we are beginning with AI, generative AI, which where අර තවදුරටත් computing කියන එක අපිට tool එකක් නෙමෙයි, but it actually act as a co-worker, right? It actually as a friend with knowledge, right? So ඒකයි entrepreneurship perspective එකේ මම ඉස්සලා කිව්වේ co-founder කෙනෙක් විදිහට අපිට කතා කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. එතකොට ඒ වගේම සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි හිතමු පාසල් ශිෂ්‍ය ශිෂ්‍යාවන්ට විශ්වවිද්‍යාල අධ්‍යාපනය හදාරන ශිෂ්‍ය ශිෂ්‍යාවන්ට තමන්ගේ හැම කටයුත්තකටම AI වලින් use case එකක් තියෙනවා. හරි. දැන් සරල උදාහරණ කිව්වොත් එහෙම ඔබ language barrier ගැන අහපු නිසා දැන් මට ඉස්සර තිබ්බ ප්‍රශ්නයක් තමයි පෞද්ගලිකව ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මම social media වල මම දේවල් ලියන්නේ ගොඩක් වෙලාවට සිංහලෙන්. හරි. එතකොට මට හැබැයි මේ සිංහල මොකද මගේ social media audience එක මම බෙදාගෙන තියෙනවා Facebook page එකක් වෙනම තියෙනවා profile එකක් වෙනම තියෙනවා page එක සිංහලෙන් profile එක English වලින් and LinkedIn සම්පූර්ණයෙන් English. right? ඒතර මට තිබ්බ ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඉස්සර මගේ time limitations එක Facebook page එකේ සිංහල audience එකේ තමයි ගොඩක්ම ලොකු audience එකක් ඉන්නේ more than 100,000. ඒතර ඒකට සිංහලෙන් ලියන එක මට තවත් time එකක් spend වෙනවා මට මේක proper English වලට හරවලා මගේ profile එකේ LinkedIn වලටයි ගන්න. හැබැයි දැන් ඒ time එක few seconds මම කරන්නේ සිංහල එක මම I write by myself සිංහල එක මම ලියලා ඒක chat GPT use කරනවා English වලට professional Facebook style එකට Facebook වලින් ලියලා ගන්න LinkedIn style එකට LinkedIn වලින් ලියලා ගන්න. right? So it has actually made my life so easier. Otherwise what will happen අරක කරන්න මට වෙලාව මදි වුණොත් එහෙම ගොඩාක් පහු වෙනවා social media updates ටික අනිත් channels වල යන්න. right? It actually affects my personal brand as well as our communications about our products and services, everything. right? ඒතර මේ පුංචි උදාහරණයක්. ඒ වගේම අපිට දැන් university students ලා එහෙම නැත්නම් future entrepreneurs වලට founders වලට තව තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නයක් තමයි තමන් product එකක් හදලා service එකක් හදුවට how to market it කියන එක. right? How to communicate it better to the people. ඒතර marketing පැත්තට ගත්තත් digital marketing වලට අපිට සාහන use කරන්න පුළුවන්. අද වෙනකොට image generation, video generation සහ even complete campaign planning. You can actually use generative AI tools. chat GPT වලට වඩා Gemini වලට මේ වෙනකොට සෑහෙන සිංහල පුළුවන්. අපේ සිංහල ගුරුවරයෙක්ටත් වැඩිය සෑහෙන සිංහල පුළුවන් කියලා තියෙනවා Gemini වලට. So you can actually without any language barriers you can actually use AI for any kind of use cases. right? So වැඩේ තියෙන්නේ හැමතිස්සෙම මොනාහරි තමන් හිර වෙන තැනක් තියෙනවනේ. තමන්ට ටයිම් එක ලිමිට් වෙන තැනක් තියෙනවනම් චුට්ටක් කල්පනා කරලා බැලුවා නම් මේකට මට AI වලින් මොකද්ද ගන්න පුළුවන් වැඩේ කියලා there is always something that AI can assist you. right?
right. thank you Dhanika. Dehan පොඩක් කතා කරමු මේ ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රියල් එන්වයරන්මන්ට් එක එක්ස්පීරියන්ස් එකක් තියෙන කෙනෙක් හැටියට පොඩක් අපිට කියන්න මේ process bottleneck වලට right Gen AI use කරලා solutions හදන්න පුළුවන්ද එහෙම හදලා තියෙනවද නැත්නම් අපිට දෙන්නකො ප්‍රැක්ටිකල් එක්සැම්පල් එකක් කොහොමද මේක වෙන්නේ කියලා
මේ ධනික ලැන්ග්වේජ් බැරියර් ගැන කියපු හින්දා මම ඒ පැත්තම එක්සැම්පල් එකක් කියන්නම්. මොකද අපිත් ගොඩක් වෙලා ලැන්ග්වේජ් බැරියර් එක මිටිගේට් කරන්න Gen AI use කරලා තියෙනවා. මොකද අපි වැඩ කරන කන්ට්‍රීස් කීපයක් එක්ක එක භාෂාවල් කතා කරන්නේ. and ලොකු එම්ප්ලොයි පොපියුලේෂන් එකක ඉන්න. එතකොට අපිට ඉක්මනටම කමියුනිකේට් කරන්න ඕන. හිතන්න අපි වැඩ කරනවා කස්ටමර් කෙනෙක් එක්ක Nike, Lululemon කස්ටමර්ගේ අපි කියනවා ටෙක් ස්පෙක් කියලා. ටෙක්නිකල් ස්පෙસિෆිකේෂන් ඩොකියුමන්ට් එකක් අපි මැනුෆැක්චර් කරන්න ඕන ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකේ ඔක්කොම ටෙක්නිකල් ඩීටේල්ස් එංගොල්ලන් කම්ප්ලීට් PDF එකක් හරි නැත්නම් වෙන ෆෝමැට් එකකින් හරි එංගොල්ලන් අපිට එවනවා. හැබැයි ඔය ප්‍රශ්නේ වෙන්නේ ඕක අපි සිම්ප්ලිෆයි කරන්න ඕනේ ෆැක්ටරි ලෙවල් එකේ ප්‍රොඩක්ෂන් එකේ ඔපරේටර් කෙනෙක්ට තේරෙන භාෂාවකට කන්වර්ට් කරන්න ඕනේ. සමහරලාට එන්නේ ස්කෙච් එකක් එන්නේ ඉමේජ් එකක් එන්නේ ඉමේජ් එක රීඩ් කරලා ඒක කන්වර්ට් කරන්න ඕනේ අපේ ඔපරේෂන් ලෙවල් එකට. සහ තව එකක් තමයි සමහරවිට අපි සිම්ප්ලිෆයි කරනවා. ඒක තියෙන වචන 1000ක් 2000ක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක ඉන්ෆෝග්‍රැෆියක් වගේ සිම්පල් විදියට සරල විදියකට තේරුම් ගන්න පුළුවන් එකක් වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඉතින් අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට බලන්නේ මේ කමියුනිකේෂන් බැරියර් එකයි එහෙම නැත්නම් ලීඩ් ටයිම් එක ඉම්ප්‍රූව් කරන එකයි නැත්නම් මිස්කමියුනිකේෂන්. ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මිස්කමියුනිකේෂන් ලා තියෙනවා මේ ට්‍රාන්ස්ලේෂන් එකේ. අපිට එන රික්වයර්මන්ට් එක තව එකක් අපි ට්‍රාන්ස්ලේට් කරලා මොකද channels ගොඩකින් යන හින්දා අන්තිම එන්ඩ් එකේ දෙද්දි සම්පූර්ණ වෙනස් මැසේජ් එකක් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ එකක් ඔයිට් කරන්න අපි GenAI පාවිච්චි කරලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට ඉන්ටර්වෙන්ෂන් එක හියුමන් ඉන්ටර්වෙන්ෂන් එක සෑහෙන අඩුයි. මොකද එක එක කට්ටියකින් එක එක මෙතඩ්ස් එන්නේ ඉස්සර මැනුවලි එක්කෙනෙක් අරගෙන තනි ෆෝමැට් එකකට හදන්නත් ඕනේ. එහෙම හදන්න රික්වයර්මන්ට් එකකුත් නැහැ. ෆෝමැට් එක මොකක් වුණත් අපි අප්ලෝඩ් කරන ඩොකියුමන්ට් එක AI කරන්නේ ස්ට්‍රක්චර් කරලා අපේ ඕගනයිසේෂන් එකේ ෆෝමැට් එකට ෆයිනල් අවුට්පුට් එක දීලා සිංග්ලිෂ් වලින් පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඉස්සර නම් ඇත්තටම යුනිකෝඩ්ම පාවිච්චි කරන්න ඕනේ. දැන් එහෙම නැහැ. ඇත්තටම සිංග්ලිෂ් වලින් නැත්තම් ටැමිල් එක්ක ඉංග්ලිෂ් ලැන්ග්වේජෙන් හරි ඕන භාෂාවකින් දැම්මම යාට දැන් රීඩ් කරන්න පුළුවන්. මේක සෑහෙන ඇඩ්වාන්ටේජ් එකක් වෙලා තියෙනවා. මොකද අපේ මැජොරිටි ඔෆ් එම්ප්ලොයි බේස් එකේ ඉන්නේ ෆැක්ටරි ලෙවල් එකේ. ඒතකොට ඒගොල්ලන් බොහොම සරල විදියට කමියුනිකේට් කරන්නේ ගොඩක් වැදගත් වෙලා තියෙනවා.
Right. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Tushera, we talk a lot about scaling in the local startup ecosystem, but the volume Cisco handle is often unimaginable, right? Because you all are handling a much massive volume, and we are talking about millions of cases moving daily across the globe, few hundreds of $1 million transaction a day. So kind of a massive scale. So how do you democratize the innovation across an organization of that magnitude? And specifically, how are you using GenAI to solve everyday challenges in Cisco? Just clarify us how you all are doing that magic.
Okay. My take on GenAI is little different. We don't settle just for the mundane task. Even I'm not even encouraging people to use GenAI for emails, reading, and even generative, some of these things, right? We have massive amount of enterprise data, and we are talking about creating small language models within that enterprise. And then we are talking about now prescriptive AI moving into generative AI. Now we are moving into the or agentic AI. Agentic AI takes autonomous decisions, and then do orchestration agent to agents, because we are talking about digital workforce. Now we have moved from just being a mundane use of AI to do mundane tasks to do create digital workforce, right? And setting up teams, even say if it is software engineering, you have software engineering teams take on some of the tasks like even automation to generating some of the data logs, analytics, and putting into the automated tickets. So that is the scale we are looking at, right? So you can't just use AI because you still need a human to use the tool. We don't use AI as a tool. We use actually beyond that. We set up digital agents to take autonomous decisions. In that case, we are completely moving from use of AI to multiply AI, right? That's why the velocity is important. At that scale, you have to think about how to disintermediate from people using AI to let AI to take on the work, right? So we are talking about even digital twin in terms of twin is actually we are looking at individual perspective, but completely ecosystem perspective. So we have ecosystem twins, like the factory twins, taking decision on behalf of what the temperature should be, what's the kind of factory setup should be, what's the layout should be. Now think about 3D Tetrix, right? So that's what actually we look at. Even we are going to the details of how to stack a particular container, how to distribute the weight to reduce the wastage on the tires. Because that wastage you reduce, you're talking about again millions of dollars of savings, right? In that case, you go to the granular level of details, use of AI to take autonomous decision on some of those algorithms decisions, right? And other one, Dhanika keep saying, that's what I'm saying, like the innovators fall in love with solutions. Entrepreneurs fall in love with problems. Now, that's where the ecosystem comes in. Now, think about Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. Can that be a business? That's the idea. What the business is, now take 5-second pause. Can that be a business? If there's no power grid, will that bulb is useful? If it's in a research environment, in a lab, yes, bulb is fantastic. But how you can make it a business? Somebody need to think about the power grid. Somebody need to think about metering it. Somebody need about installing those power grids. Somebody need to think about selling the bulbs as outlets, accessible to the people. That's an entire ecosystem. Those are the things that entrepreneurs look at. They look at the problems, what the problem is. Now comes a push. That's the evolution, like how we can deliver this at a lowest cost possible, right? That's what actually we looked at in terms of scale, how you really put those ideas into entrepreneurship business.
Thank you, Mr. Tushar. I think you shared with us a massive message. So thank you very much for the experience, what you have shared with us. So ladies and gentlemen, with that note, we are moving to the third segment of the panel discussion, which is from innovation to entrepreneurship. And here we will be focusing on how to turn an idea into a business or a startup. So let's start with Dhanika. Dhanika, nowadays we see everyone is having the access to GenAI tools, right? So just tell us a person who is going to start with a new business or kind of a startup, right? I think a business model also plays a vital role other than the same as the technology. Just tell us how important is this business model as same as the technology or GenAI from your experience?
Yeah, when it comes to starting a business or a startup, it actually begins with a few things. One thing is actually you should have an idea which is smart enough to solve a problem or fill a market gap. And then actually for it to be commercially viable or to commercially sustainable, you should have a business model out of that on how you can make an earning from that, right? So most of the startups fail, sometimes not because of the idea is not smart enough, but because of actually they are getting failed to find a valid business model, a right business model to make it financially sustainable. So it's very important to not just to come up with an idea, and execute that idea, but execute it in a financially sustainable way, right? So again, as you mentioned, now when it comes to tech startups, most of the tech people are so much hyped about the new technologies and try to use the new technologies, the buzzwords for everything that they do. But that is actually from tech angle. But when it comes to entrepreneurship angle or startup angle, what really matters is actually what is the problem that you are solving, right? The tech behind that, the technology behind that, whether it is AI, whether it is machine learning, whether it is robotics, whether it is for 5G, that is actually not relevant to the people, right? Not relevant to the end users. What the end users care is whether it actually solves a problem for them or fulfill a need for them, right? So we have to be careful to keep the technology behind us, behind the product, right? Because what people are looking for is not product or services, right? මිනිස්සු හොයන්නේ හැමතිස්සෙම මේ නිෂ්පාදන හෝ සේවා නෙමෙයි. මිනිස්සු හොයන්නේ හැමතිස්සෙම විසඳුම්, right? People are always finding solutions for their day-to-day problems, for their business problems, there are various kinds of problems and needs, right? So we have to be careful. Whatever the technology that we use, as you mentioned, now GenAI is available for everyone to use as APIs and build solutions out of that. But what matters is not what is the AI or what is actually the complexity of the technology that you use, but what is actually the solution that you make, that you build using that technology, right? If you do that, that's where you will be able to find a business model where people will be happy to pay something for you, right?
So, Dhanika, just to interrupt with that discussion, I think
Yeah.
you are trying to say we have to focus and you have to play the vital role in the business model rather than the infrastructure and the that thing, right?
What I'm saying is we have to focus on actually what is the solution that we are providing, right? So if we are providing, if you are addressing a right problem and coming up with the right solution, that is where the people will be convinced to pay you some money and use your product or service, right? So business model will be success only if you actually solve a right problem and come up with a right product or service to solve that, right? So if we pay our focus to that, finding a business model will not be an issue because people always pay for value, right? Value for money. If they perceive it as valuable for them to pay something, they will actually pay and buy that, right? And that can be, acquired by different models like subscriptions, recurring payments, in-app purchases, there are so many business models that we can leverage. But the focus should be, what is the value that you are giving to your end user? What is the problem that you are solving for end user? What is the need that you are fulfilling for end user?
Yeah. Dhanika, I think everyone will agree with that. Thank you very much for your insights. So, Mr. Tushera, everyone at edX today is talking about GenAI tools, right? So, but at Cisco Labs, you are not just experimenting, you are deploying this into a mission critical supply chain that feeds the world, right? I think I'm correct. So, what strategies should the entrepreneurs and future leaders here follow to move GenAI from a cool toy to a core business driver? And along with that, I have another question to mix up with that. So, and how do you ensure that technology actually solves the problem rather than just adding noise? We would like to see that angle from Cisco Labs perspective.
I like to build what Dhanika stops more like create a business out of the ideas that you have, right? If you look at the history, the first automobile, Carl Benz created the vehicle, but it was lying in the garage. The Bertha Benz, who's the wife of Carl, took the courage. He was down, actually, right? Carl Benz was down, not looking at how to take this out of the market. People were complaining about the noise, people complaining about the vibration. But Bertha Benz took that challenge. She took the first ride to the road. Then people start looking at that particular elegance of the lady driving a unknown motorized vehicle. That created a spark of, okay, there's a use case. Dhanika was talking about the use cases. Sometimes people are not exploiting the opportunity that you have at hand to make it a application of that, right? Same goes to every innovation in the world, most of the innovation, that the idea stays if you're really not applying that to a use and then show the value to the people, it doesn't, right? So same goes internally. So we actually look at how to use this technology. This is technology as a tool, not as a more like a toy to play around, because we don't have that luxury, right? Then we created a platform, the agentic platform called Sage, that we are democratizing innovation, that people think of doing something, now technology is there for you. But if you have an idea, if you have a problem to solve, use the Sage to solve your own problem, right? In that case, this technology is not a barrier for business users to create solutions that we talk about, right? And that's to show, again, we have to show the way, like what the Bertha Benz did, and like what even the Edison did, right? He just not created the bulb, rather he showed the ecosystem, complete ecosystem. He's the largest manufacturer of turbines in the world, right? General Electrics. So then you were talking about entire ecosystem, right? So you have to have that ecosystem ready for people to leverage technology. It can't stand alone. So GenAI can't stand alone if you have the massive data. Now that massive data is irrelevant to enterprise like us because it's a very generic data. We need the enterprise data. Then we have to consolidate those enterprise data into a single most small language models that's relevant to the business. Otherwise, this hallucination is so much that you might create something that is not relevant to the business, right? So we have to be really careful with this synthetic data is generated out of GenAI. So that's what actually we do here. It's not just a toy for us as we create a platform, we create an enabling platform. That agentic platform is for the business users to create their own solutions, and then experimental bases are there to kind of test it, is the output is right and is more relevant and current. And then also the data that we do have are more like authentic. So that has to be also is very important for us, right? Because we are talking about massive scale. Even one single error can lead to millions of dollars of loss to the organization. And being a public organization, being on the top 100, so our stake is at risk if you don't take it right. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword, right? If you don't use technology, you'll stay behind. If you use the technology in the wrong place, your existence will be questioned, or maybe not anymore there actually. So in that we have to be really careful. So all of these guardrails are put in, but at the same time, innovation is democratized.
Yeah, Mr. Dojara, thank you very much for your wonderful inputs. Right. So turning to Dehan. So Dehan, you are coming from a different industry. So we would like to hear from you. How do you see the contribution of GenAI to develop an internal entrepreneurship within an industry? We love to hear from you because you are coming from a different industry and you have that experience. So over to you.
So basically, we are looking at how we can improve the process innovation. I think previously I spoke about the product innovation in terms of improve the product, how we can use GenAI. So process innovation, we have taken into vibe coding. I'll explain vibe coding later on into non-developers. So I'll explain one example. So there's a person, he's working for like a planning team, and he has no idea on how the programming works, and he doesn't know any of the programming languages. So what we have done is we have built relevant tools for the employees who has no idea about the programming to build their own prototype. So what happens when they are engaging on their day-to-day business process, they see a problem, and what they do is they are trying to solve the problem by themselves. And what they do is they use their tool and they build their own application. So when it comes to digital team, previously, we had to sit with the business user, understand their problem. We had to spend a lot of time for the process innovation point of view to eliminate the bottlenecks or eliminate the non-value additions in the business process. Now, the business user itself try how they can solve the problems by themselves. And for us, we are getting a workable prototype. And what we have to do is we take the concept and we just have to scale it up. And then again, vibe coding, that is, we use AI tools, we put a problem and the tool is generating like different web app or a mobile app, and that has solved most of the problem in terms of process innovation. So that's what we are encouraging most of the employees. Okay, if you face a problem, try to solve, because sometimes there can be non-value adding steps, which is you don't need a digital tool, like a very basic step. If you change a simple process, you don't need to invest on very big thing, just change the process and you solve the problem. So first they try to solve the process problem by themselves, just in case if it's a non-value addition or a routine work or complete unnecessary step they have to do. What they do is then they do vibe coding and try different application or website and run the application or the prototype within 2-3 days by themselves. Then we take few good use cases which we can scale up across the organization, and then we support the individual. And within the organization we encourage. So we call them digital champions and we reward them, and that's a kind of encouragement for the other people as well. That has generated us a lot of beneficial point of view. At the same time, I think I should mention the challenges as well. So we work with very confidential data. Some of the designers are highly protected and intellectual property is anyway mandated. Sometimes when people don't know about this closed LLM and open LLM, what they do is they directly use all the public platforms or ChatGPT open profiles So we are doing the digital literacy improvement in that angle as well. So what we use inside our organization, Microsoft Applications, Copilot, and few other GenAI tools which we have developed internally as well. And what we always encourage employees to like, okay, your data should be protected. At the same time, how the hallucination might be impacted on the final output. So those things we encourage people who are involved in the business process, we teach them. So I think that democratization of the digital tools has been the crucial benefit for us at the moment.
Right. Thank you, thank you, Dehan. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that note, we are going for the fourth segment of the discussion, which is risk, ethics, and future. So, let's start with Dhanika. Dhanika, අපිට කියන්න මේ ලංකාවේ දැන් අපි දන්නවා AI tools වල තියෙන risk ගැන. මම දන්නවා අපිට වඩා අපි දකින්න දේවල් තමයි data privacy, job displacement මේ වගේ challenges තියෙනවා ලංකාවේ. Right? එතකොට ඔයා කියන්න මේ ඔයාට තියෙන I think more than 15 years, nearly 15 years experience with Bhasha, right? කියන්න අපිට කොහොමද මේ ලංකාව වගේ රටක මේ job gen AI implement කරද්දී corporate එක එහෙම නැත්නම් newly start කරන startups වල මොන වගේ areas ද අපි පොඩ්ඩක් කියන්නේ වඩා සැලකිලිමත් වෙන්න ඕනේ මොන වගේ areas ද අපි ගොඩක්ම focus කරන්න ඕනේ පොඩ්ඩක් අපි කතා කරමු.
හොඳ ප්‍රශ්නයක්. So මෙහෙමයි දැන් Gen AI වේවා වෙන technology එකක් වේවා අපිට අලුතෙන් එන technologies we cannot avoid them, right? We have no option than embracing that technology, right? අපිට ඒකට adapt වෙන්න වෙනවා, ඒකට හුරු වෙන්න වෙනවා. එතකොට අපි අපේ දැනට පවතින සාම්ප්‍රදායික විධි, processes, procedures, everything, we have to change accordingly, right? එතකොට දැන් මේ වෙනකොට ගත්තොත් එහෙම with the inception of generative AI, the efficiency of everything has speed up a massive amount, right? හිතා ගන්නවත් බැරි තරම් විදිහට fast වෙලා තියෙනවා, efficient වෙලා තියෙනවා දේවල්, right? When it comes to coding, අපි ඉස්සර සාමාන්‍ය මාස 3ක් ගියා නම් යම්කිසි development එකකට මේ වෙනකොට ඒක එක මාසෙන් කරන්න පුළුවන්, right? ඒතර ඒ වගේ හැම area එකකම ගත්තත් marketing ගත්තත් ක්‍රියේටිව් සයිඩ් එක ගත්තත් මේ හැම එකේදීම අපිට කලින් අපිට පැය ගණන් ගිය දේවල් දවස් ගණන් ගිය දේවල් දැන් අපිට දවසෙන් කරන්න පැය ගාණින් කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට එහෙම තත්වයක් තුල now you talked about the job replacement no. ඒතර replace වෙන්නේ කවුද? replace වෙන්නේ හැමතිස්සෙම අර තව දුරටත් අර සාම්ප්‍රදායික විදිහට කලින් කරපු විදිහටම කර ඉන්න අය තමයි replace වෙන්නේ. So we need to adapt to that. The labor force, workforce, teams needs to adapt to that and embrace technology and build up their career. අර තව දුරටත් අර අපේ මාස 3 යන එකට මාස 3ක්ම ගත්තොත් එයා definitely he will be replaced, right? But එයාට පුළුවන් නම් මේ technology embrace කරලා ඒක මාසෙන් නෙමෙයි ඒක සති දෙකෙන් කරන ගානට technology adapt කරන්න technology use කරලා ඒ වැඩේ කරන්න he will not be replaced but he will actually get better opportunities, right? එතකොට from corporate perspective, we also have a responsibility to adapt our, trainings, right? Corporate trainings, not in the same way, in the traditional way, but to adapt technology and introduce new ways for our same good old employees to adapt technology and, make them efficient, right? So, මෙතන තමයි අතරම ගැටලුව තියෙන්නේ ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ අපි adapt වෙනවද නැද්ද? adapt වුණොත් එහෙම replacement එකක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපිට business perspective එකෙන් ගත්තොත් හැමතිස්සෙම what business expect is actually to lower the input, higher the output, right? The GenAI has been a great source of tool or a technology to make our efficiency in a massive way, make our productivity in a massive way, right? So හැමතිස්සෙම corporate එකක් business එකක් බලන්නේ Tamange cost එක අඩු කරගෙන income එක වැඩි කරගන්න, right? එතකොට එතනදී අපිට පුළුවන් නම් ඒ වැඩේට දායක වෙන කෙනෙක්, ඒ වැඩේට contribute කරන කෙනෙක් වෙන්න we will still have an opportunity to go up in our career ladder, right? ඒතර අනිත් හැමතැනදීම අපි services ගත්තොත් එහෙම මේ වෙනකොට අපි අපේ customers ලට දෙන services business එකක් customers ලට දෙන services පැත්තෙන් ගත්තොත් people in future will not expect the services as the same old way, right? They will expect in much efficient ways, much productive ways. So, government services the Gen Z and the future generations will expect more in terms of convenience, in terms of efficiency, in terms of cost and time saving. They will expect more. So it's all about how soon we adapt to the technology so that actually we can handle most of the challenges that we get due to technology.
Right. Thank you, Dhanika. එතකම් මිස්ටර් තුෂේරා මම දැනගන්න කැමති අපි තාමත් මේ edX concept එකත් එක්කම අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාට experience කරන දෙයක් තමයි still there are traditional parents who forced for the traditional degrees and because කෙනෙක් මගේ සමහරලාට එයාගොල්ලන්ගේ දන්න කෙනෙක් කරන හින්දා තමයි ඔයත් මේ business management කරන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ වගේ කියන්නේ අපි තාමත් traditionally එන ගමනක් තාමත් ලංකාවේ තියෙනවා. So from your experience, just tell us, how do you advise parents to allow AI to come to the world of learning of their child, especially the methods of learning? From as a respected corporate leader, from your experience level, just tell us how should be done.
Is a relevant and timely question. If you look at what GenAI or any technology brings you is eliminating this monotonous, repetitive, pattern-based problem solving, right? So it's, if you see a pattern, if it is monotonous, if it is repetitive, you can hand over that to a technology or particular tool to do that, right? That's what the calculators are there. That's what all of this kind of, even the vehicle, right? So it's, you know that, hey, I want to go from A to B. And then that particular invention is allow us to go to A to B, right? Now, when it's come to critical thinking, what we are looking at is how to advance any areas to Dhanika's point, the productivity. Productivity is how you gain is you have to produce more output to a small unit of input, right? And your input becomes closer to the zero, your productivity become infinite, right? In theoretically, right? Can you get there? In my view, yes. We need to think about infinite productivity by producing output even without single input into the system, right? So that is in terms of saying, okay, if you are thinking of a problem, if your creativity is put into a platform, can platform give me a output in almost no time, right? So that's immense productivity to solve a problem. Now, with that comes to the education. Now we need to think about, we need to train people understanding the ecosystem. You can't exist in an isolated or siloed environment, right? Because we are connected, massively connected. In 5IR, we are talking about mass collaboration, right? Is mass collaboration is everything is connected. Even think about autonomous car, right? You make a request to a destination, right? Now you don't need drivers to respond, the car will respond. For that you need entire ecosystem connected, right? You need to connect it to a complete ecosystems, right? Even car need to understand now where to my refuel, right? How can I refuel? How the payment systems are being integrated into that. So people need to think about integrating into the complete larger ecosystem beyond the things that you think the vicinity of your boundary. So you have to see things beyond the vicinity, right? Secondly, how to look at problems in a more solution approach. When you see a problem, you can't stop it saying, okay, there's a constraint, like what the Carl Benz was hitting, right? So you need to think beyond and say, okay, there's an opportunity for me to exploit and go beyond the boundaries of constraints. So entrepreneurs always hits with the constraints. It could be money, it could be time, it could be technology, it could be people, it could be infrastructure, it could be governance, government, everything comes to that, right? So all are constraints. And if you break those silos and cut through those constraints, then you will be successful entrepreneur, right? So that's what parents need to think about. Go beyond the book of studying, right? And go beyond this monotonous traditional thinking, how to go beyond the boundaries of this ecosystem, yeah? And then critical thinking, look at problems always as solution to solve those problems. And then integrating to the large ecosystem. So that's what really matters. It can't be, again, local context. You need to think about the global context also, right? So think stop thinking small, think very, very, very big. I'm always calling it a moonshots. At least if you dream for moon, you will land somewhere in between, right? So you need to get there. So as students, have your moonshot, have the X factor, identify what is that, is really spark you to get to the next level, and then go beyond the traditional thinking.
Thank you, Mr. Dushera. Points well taken. Dehan, කියන්නකෝ දැන් මේ ලංකාවේ මේ GenAI ගැන කතා කරනවා අපි මේ tools සහ දැන් Gen Z ඔය ගැන කතා කරනවා. ඒත් එක්කම අපි දන්නවා අවුරුදු 13ක් පුරාවට එන පාසල් අධ්‍යාපනයකුත් ලංකාවේ තියෙනවා. ඔයා දකින විදිහට කියන්නකෝ කොහොමද පාසල් අධ්‍යාපනය තුලදී මේකට කිසියම් වූ රුකුලක් වෙන්න ඕනේ නැද්ද? ඒ කියන්නේ මේ එක්ස්පෝෂර් එක අපි එතනටත් පොඩ්ඩක් ගේන්න ඕනේ නැද්ද? මොකද හිතන්නේ?
ඒක මේ දවස්වල වැඩිපුර කතා බහ කරන මාතෘකාවක්. මෙම එක පාසල්වල දැන් මම දැකලා තියෙන ඒගොල්ලන් රජේ මගින් නැති වුණත් සමහර පාසල් මම දැකලා තියෙන ඒගොල්ලන් ඇතුළෙම කරිකියුලම් චේන්ජ් කරලා තියෙනවා ඇකමඩේට් කරන්න අලුත් ටෙක්නොලොජිස් ළමයින්ට උගන්වන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා. හැබැයි මේක ශ්‍රී ලංකාව පුරා මම දැකලා නැහැ ව්‍යාප්ත වෙලා තියෙනවා කියලා. එක පාසල් වල ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ තියෙන ඉන්ෆ්‍රාස්ට්‍රක්චර් මත ඒවා අඩු වැඩි වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි දෙමාපියන්ට පුළුවන්කමක් තියෙනවා නම් ළමයින්ට පොඩ කාලේ දැම්ම කම්පියුටර් එක අරන් දීලා ඉගෙන ගන්න. මොකද දැන් ඉස්සර වගේ නෙමෙයි අපි පොඩි කාලේ වගේ නෙමෙයි YouTube තියෙනවා. දැන් TikTok එකේ වුණත් ගොඩක් වටිනා এডুকেෂනල් channels තියෙනවා. YouTube එකේ ඕන තරම් channels තියෙනවා. ඕන තරම් online tutorials තියෙනවා. Coursera වගේ Udemy courses කරන්න පුළුවන්. පොඩි කාලේ දැම්ම ළමයින්ට ඉගෙන ගන්න පුළුවන්. and මම හිතන්නේ දැන් ගොඩක් මම දකින පොඩි ළමයි එහෙම ගොඩක් අය ඉන්න දැන් ChatGPT පාවිච්චි කරන්න පොඩි කාලේ දැන් පුරුදු වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඉස්සර වගේ භාෂා ප්‍රශ්නයක් කළත් නැහැ. ඒගොල්ලන් මොකක් හරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් ආපු ගමන් ChatGPT ගහනවා මේක කොහොමද solve කරන්නේ? මම දැකලා තියෙන O level ළමයි ඉගෙන ගන්න perplexity use කරනවා. එහෙම ගොඩක් advance වෙලා තියෙනවා. හැබැයි ඒක ලංකාවේ හැමතැනම එකම වගේද කියලා මම ඒක පිළිගන්න බෑ. එහෙම වෙලා නැහැ. ඉතින් අපේ education curriculum එකට රජයේ මැදිහත් වෙලා හරි නැත්නම් වෙන විදිහකට හරි කුඩා කාලේ ඉඳන්ම පොඩි simple දේවල් ඉගෙන ගන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඒක සෑහෙන ගොඩක් වටිනවා. තව අඩුපාඩුවක් විතර මම දකින්නේ මේකත් එක්කම නෙගටිව් ඉම්පැක්ට් එකකුත් තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. අපි ඉන්ටර්විව් කරද්දි මම සමහරවල් දැකලා තියෙනවා ගොඩක් කට්ටිය වහල් වෙලා තියෙනවා AI tool එකට. මොකද ඒගොල්ලන් පුරුදුලා තියෙන මොකක් හරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් ආපු ගමන් ප්‍රශ්න කොපි කරනවා, ටයිප් කරනවා ChatGPT එකේ උත්තරය ගන්නවා. ගොඩක් වෙලාට අන්ඩර් ග්‍රැජුවේට්ස් ලෙවල් එකේ ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ලොජිකල් තින්කින් කලින්ට වැඩිය පොඩි අඩුවක් දැකලා තියෙනවා. හේතුව ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ඒගොල්ලන් හිතන ටයිම් එක AI tool එකකට බාර දීලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් සමහරලාට අපි ඉන්ටර්විව් කරද්දී එහෙම බලලා තියෙනවා. අපි piece of paper එකක් දීලා ඒගොල්ලන්ට logic එක ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ thinking එක කොහොමද කියලා බලනවා කොලේ ලියන්න. ඒක කරන්න ගොඩක් අයට අමාරු වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒක අපි ඔබ්සර්ව් කරපු behavior එකක්. ඉතින් පොඩි කාලේ දැම්ම logic thinking improve කරන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද tools වෙනස් වෙනවා. tools හැමදාම improve වෙනවා, tools වෙනස් වෙනවා. හැබැයි අපේ creativity and logical thinking අපි mind එකෙන් කරන එක ඒක තමයි වැදගත්ම වෙන්නේ. ඉතින් ඒක කරන්න පුළුවන් activities curriculum අපි ඉස්කෝලේ කාලේ දැම්ම ළමයින්ට improve කරන්න පුළුවන්. technology කෙසේ වෙතත් අඩුම තරමේ creativity and logical thinking build කරන්නේ කොහොමද? analytical thinking එක build කරන්නේ කොහොමද කියන එක පොඩි කාලේ දැම්ම ළමයින්ට උගන්වන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඒක තමයි වැදගත් වෙන්නේ.
Right. So thank you very much panel. With that note, we are closing the direct questions to the panel. So I think time is running fast, but we can allow 2 to 3 minutes if there are open questions from the audience. If not, we can go to the common question. Yeah, okay, we have one.
Thank you very much. My question is, I believe the industries like shipbuilding, oil and gas, and defense industries are not like non-standard or non-traditional industries. So if I use AI tools, do you think there is a risk factor? If so, how we mitigate those?
If I rephrase that, you're asking industries like defense.
Yes, defense and oil and gas. We're having offshore and onshore.
Right.
They are sort of critical industries.
Right.
So if I use as or the AI solution for there, do you see any risk factors when you are implementing this? If so, how we mitigate this?
I mean, look at AI as a massive amount of data comes together and forming a intelligence out of that data, which is far beyond that you can reach out to the experts, right? Think about even medical industries. Now, some of the medical industries, surgeries are done autonomously, right? And even in terms of the defense, I mean, you have seen the recent invasions doesn't take years. These like done in few weeks. Now you can guess what are the reasons, right? You have far more intelligence and the insights and the capabilities that data is giving you than thousands of intelligent military personnel is giving you that intelligence, right? The sophistication of those weapons, ability to kind of autonomously take decisions are being embedded into those weapons, right? So, I mean, military exponentially grown with the AI. And even oil and gas, even the exploitation, experimentation, and also the tools capability of the places that they can reach that humans can't reach are being exploited, right? In that case, every single industry is that thinking of humans can do, the AI can do much better. The reason is they have multiple intelligence sources plus the capability that humanly can't do it, the machines can even reach, right? So I think that exploitation and opportunity that they are leveraging is massive. You can't see it, as you said, because it's not beyond our comprehension and also maybe our access range. But those are being largely exploited. In our industries of which we are in, also you can't see some of the things, but again, those technologies are being applied because some of the things is humanly impossible to do in that massive scale. So we have to leverage technology and the robotics to do those things.
Thank you very much, sir, for your answer. Yeah.
Just to add a little bit for that, just don't think that AI is something that you will be able to directly replace an employee and put him out and replace with AI. But if you think about the roles and responsibilities of your employees, the workforce, right? The processes, procedures, their day-to-day work, there should be whole amount of things that you can actually make their work productive and efficient by using AI, right? So that what will eventually happen is not actually now, if you have A, B, C, D kind of employees, you will replace A with the AIA, but if four of them are doing the same work, you will be, by improving their efficiency and productivity, by the time you will be able to get done the same amount of work, not by four of them, but by just two of them or one of them, right? That is what we are talking about, that AI will replace jobs, right? Not actually the exact, resource persons, but the teamwork, we can achieve the same amount of output by lesser input.
Right. I think your question got answered, right?
Yes.
Right.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you. So, panel, I would like to, with that note, go to the closing advice from each of you. Just take 2 minutes and just tell us your final advice or the final message to the audience with us today. We'll start from Dhanika. Yeah.
Okay, I'll start. So my 1 minute, you have to embrace AI. Without AI, there's no future in any industry, in any employment, right? So you have to embrace it and make yourself productive. ඉස්සර ඔයාට දවසක් ගිය වැඩේ මේ වෙනකොට පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕන පැය ගානෙන් කරන්න, right? In future, that is what your employers, that is what your, everyone expects from you. So you have to embrace it and go forward with that. And if you are onto an entrepreneurship, always not just think about what is the technology or the AI or anything that you use, but always focus on solution, the problem, right? What is actually the problem that you are solving, and what is the solution, the right solution that you are giving to add value to your users, add value and solve their problems to your users. And that is what matters when it comes to entrepreneurship. And yes, since the latest technology is AI will massively help you to achieve that, but the focus should be not the technology, but the solution.
Thank you, Dhanika. Mr. Tushar, over to you. Yeah, we would love to hear from you.
Yes. My request to everyone is go beyond what you can think of. Unfortunately, we are sitting in an island, so we are constrained with the limitations, right? I think we need to think beyond, right? Think larger scale and what you can solve in a global context, because then you actually, because you have to put a dollar into this idea, to the money into the idea, then how you can get the benefit out of this, if that is not viable, that's where the entrepreneurship is actually get killed, right? Then think about larger problem solving. Secondly, there's a problem that we understand technology, but we don't understand business. That's a big gap in the industry, right? And even the students, they know how to solve problems technologically, but they don't know what problems they're solving. So that I call it a gap between this understanding the technology and you don't understand the business, and the business don't understand technology, and technology don't understand the business, is called it a value vortex zone, right? This value vortex zone is a gap between the business understand the technology capabilities to exploit the technology to advance, and the technologists don't understand the business, what actually I'm going to solve, right? If you operate in that zone, you find opportunities for you to become the super fantastic entrepreneur. Exploit the value vortex zone. Think of you as a problem solver with the ecosystem integration. Without the ecosystem integration, your business is going to die immediately, right? So you need to understand those two aspects for you to become very successful entrepreneur. Exploiting the technology capabilities, right? Understand the business, integrate into a large ecosystem.
Thank you, Mr. Tushara. Yeah, Dehan?
I think being multi-skill for a, I think, young kid or young student, being multi-skill is the best value addition. I saw one of the stall on the other side. There are dedicated programs for AI for finance. Going forward, if you stick into one single unique skill, I think it's going to be a risk for you in future. Most of the people who have been successful, they have been multi-skilled, not only for one domain and multiple domain. So that's my short answer, being multi-skilled and definitely being curious about what happens around the world. Every day we can see a new tool and different tools coming by the day. And every time learn something new and try to apply for a problem. As these two mentioned, definitely apply what you learn to a problem is the biggest value addition.
Right. So with that note, we are going to close the second panel discussion for the day. So thank you very much, panel, for spending your valuable time with edX Expo 2026. Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being part of this insightful discussion. What we discovered today is very simple. GenAI is not just a tech trend, right? So it's a practical tool that can turn innovation into entrepreneurship and challenges into opportunities. So thank you once again, and let's continue moving from ideas to action. Have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.